Hi guys, it's Carol from Cape Cod Cottage Garden and welcome to part 2 of my fall vegetable garden cleanup. I'm going to start this video by just cleaning up my beds, and as I clean up my beds I'll tell you what worked for me this year and what didn't. I'm going to start with this bed in the back of my garden, which I call garden bed 1. For some reason this bed always underperforms. I do plant my peas in here and my peas do well and my lettuce does well. Both of those are early season crops, and I think the reason why this bed doesn't do as well is it does receive the most shade as the summer progresses. So when I'm planting my early season crops like my peas and my lettuce, they do fabulous, but then for the rest of the summer it kind of gets shaded a little bit more than the rest of the garden, and everything I put in here never produces well. So I have to decide what I want to do with this garden bed next year. I'm not sure. I might just do all flowers or something like that, but we'll get to that next season. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and clean it all out, and just so it can be ready for next spring. So bed number 1 is all complete, and in a few weeks time I'll put a deep layer of mulch, probably leaves from my yard, in this bed to get it through the winter in great shape. So successes this year in this bed were peas and lettuce. Failures were everything else that I put in here, which was like green beans, some peppers. I put some flowers in here. They did okay. I had some flowers like celosia, zinnias, and cosmos, which did decent. Yeah, let's move on to bed number 2. So this is bed number 2, and in this bed this year, I grew my onions and my carrots. My onions were fabulous this year. I just thought they were so gorgeous. I'm still eating them, and I will be eating them probably all the way through the winter. I'll link the video to the onions up here if I can. And I did a little experiment this year, so it's kind of interesting to look at that. Carrots worked great this year. I had like an infestation of ants, of some kind of ant in this bed, and they basically ate my carrots. I have carrots planted in other beds too, so it was fine. But last year my carrots were amazing, amazing, amazing. This year, at least the ones from this bed were just not great. So now I'm just going to go ahead and clean this bed out. I see a couple of ground cherries and a tomato plant volunteering in this bed already, and some weeds. I'm going to get all that out of here so it can be ready for next year. Before I do that, I did notice that there are a couple of carrots left. Let's pull them and see if they're destroyed. Yep. That's not a good carrot. That's one. Get rid of that one. Let's see this one. Oh yeah. Look it. Something was eating it. It was some kind of, I don't know. Obviously, these are not good. Hopefully the carrots in the rest of my beds would be decent. So garden bed 2 is all set. That was pretty simple because there wasn't much in it, but garden bed 3 is a different story. Let me turn the camera so you can see. So this is garden bed 3, where I had my gorgeous amaranth this year. I also grew so much stuff in this bed. Some did great, some didn't. I had all my green beans in here. Didn't do great. My eggplant did decent. Not as great as my daughter's eggplant. I have carrots, beets, and radishes. All did phenomenal this year. Very, very good. I had a beautiful marigold in here, and I also, on the trellis that is between the two, garden bed 3 and garden bed 4, I grew all my cucumbers, and they all did great, besides my pickling cukes, which I think is user error because I don't think that I picked them early enough, and so they end up turning, like I let them go too long and they get like bulbous instead of long and skinny. So I think that was my error. Oh, look at this. I just noticed it. I must have missed this eggplant. Oh, it's all yucky now, but I grew the Rosa Bianco eggplant. As you can see, this one's way past its prime. So I'm going to go ahead and clean out this bed now. If anybody knows what to do with all this amaranth, I would love to know how to use it. I just grow it because I think it's pretty, but I think it does have a medicinal purpose. If anybody knows, leave a comment. I would love that. Let me just get this out of here. I don't even know where to start with this. It's so big. Should I just pull it out of the ground? Oh boy. Yeah. Look at this plant. It was a monster. I'm gonna have to cut that up. Let's see what else I have in here. Oh, beets. I wonder if these are still good. These are the blushing, not bashful beets, so they're like a They're like a flesh-colored beet instead of like a red beet. These were delicious. We grilled them. So good. What else do I have in here? Carrots. Whoa. Oh my gosh. This is a monster carrot. It got a little insect damage because it was in the ground so long. I'll probably just compost that one. And here's another one. I mean, this is edible. It's just a little weird shape. It's got a little insect damage on the back, so I'm just going to compost it. And then these were all the green beans that I'm just going to pull out of the ground. Okay, let me get this cleaned up and I'll come back and show you when it's done. Look at the size of this marigold. Still has a lot of flowers on it, but this is going to be my only time to get this garden cleaned up, so I just have to get rid of it. There's some nice beets in here still. You can see by the cucumbers on the inside that they're not so good right now. They're all dried out, look. Not that juicy. Bed 3 is complete and moving on to bed 4. Here we are at bed number 4, and in this bed I started out the season with my broccoli, which did really well. And then I planted my Brussels sprouts, which just did terrible. There are some sprouts on these stalks, but they're just not enough to make it worth my while. I planted them too late because of my delay with my daughter's wedding in June. And then I ignored them for a couple months. I kind of ignored my garden for at least a month because I was busy, and something got at these, so they never really produced. Last year, my Brussels sprouts were amazing. This year, they didn't. You never know. I also grew chamomile in this bed. These are mealy cup sage that overwintered and came back. I had ranunculus in this bed that overwintered and came back. I planted some alyssum that was beautiful. I had some volunteer ground cherries in this bed. I can see 4 plants right now that I'm going to pull out. And I tried to grow zucchini in this bed. Nothing. I got nothing. Not one zucchini. And I had like 3 different varieties of zucchini, and not one grew. Go figure. My calendula came back and did great. And then I grew green beans, pole beans, up the trellis, and you can still see there's a bunch on there. I think I'm going to collect those pods and save some of those seeds for next year. So, and I also had a couple of volunteer tomatoes in this bed that did well. This bed performed actually pretty well. Besides the Brussels sprouts and the zucchini, everything in this bed did great. So let's get that cleaned up. I'll just show you the Brussels sprouts, like, not much. I had some with bigger sprouts on it, but at this point it's just not even worth it. So the things in this bed that I am gonna leave is I just cut back the mealy cup sage, just cut the big stalks off, because if I have a mild enough winter, that will come back. These were all volunteers from last year. My ranunculus I'm not gonna touch, and my nasturtium, right now they're putting out the little pods. You can see, whoop, these are the seeds of the nasturtium. Sorry for the plane going ahead. See? So I'm just gonna throw them right back in the garden there. Collect them from the ground and throw them in the garden, and they'll come back next year. And also my alyssum, I'm gonna leave that because that will come back, hopefully. There we go. And I also have a calendula in this bed, which I will just leave as is. I'm not even gonna touch it. It's gonna drop its seed and it's gonna come back up. What I do want to get out of this garden for sure is every single ground cherry pod I can. The tomatoes, I got rid of the Brussels sprouts and any kind of stems from the broccoli that is left over. But this bed's almost done too. I know it's looking a little sad, but when it gets a little cooler, the calendula does bounce back. And look how pretty this flower is. Isn't that pretty? I think this is called, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of this. It's orange flash or something maybe. Calendula. Beautiful, delicate. gorgeous flower. So I already completed earlier bed number 5. That's where I planted my garlic. I will link above to the video to that because I talked about my remodel a little bit, what's going on. I did a little chit chat while I gardened and planted my garlic. So I will tag that above if you want to check out that video. So next we have garden bed number 6 over here. In garden bed number 6, I have my scallions. I have some chives. My celery, which is still doing great. I think I'm going to leave it. I have carrots. I have this massive spoon tomato, which I want to get rid of. So I'm going to do my best to pick up all those little spoon tomatoes. Not sure it will work. And then I had my Jack Balliol pumpkin, which I only got 2 pumpkins off of. So I'm going to try again next year. I did love those little 2 pumpkins though. So let me get this bed cleaned up. I'm going to do my best to get this bed done, but I'm quickly losing the weather. It's starting to sprinkle. It was just sunny out a minute ago. This giant spoon tomato was a volunteer. Did not plant that. And unfortunately, the little tomatoes on them are so tiny. Let me see if I can show you. That it's almost impossible to get them all. But I'm going to try to get as many as I can. And then next year, I have to be more diligent about trying to pick out all the little seedlings that grow, because I don't want this again. Look at the roots on this ground cherry. This thing was a Goliath. And stupidly, I'm just like pulling it off and all the little tomatoes are falling on the ground to grow again next year and torture me again. Not one I would recommend growing, but we're getting there. I actually think I am going to pull this celery. While I'm looking at it here, it's like hollow on the inside. It's too far gone. So I'm just going to pull it out. Wow, quite deep-rooted celery is. Oh my gosh. That's a lot of wasted celery. It still smells really good. I'll grow that again. That was Utah tall celery. Wow. Guys. Celery has some serious roots. I decided that there's no way I'm going to be able to pick up all the ground cherries that are just inundating on this bed here. So next spring, I'm just going to have to be diligent to pull all those little tomato plants that come up. Actually, I don't even think they're a real tomato. They taste like tomato. I think they're part of the currant family. Don't quote me on that. If anybody knows, comment below and let me know. Jeez. I think this bed's going to need some topping off next year because I'm pulling out half the soil with these plants. These are my scallions. I just want to get rid of them. They smell delicious. And guys, oh my gosh, I still have a whole bucket right here. It's just out of the camera, potatoes. Maybe I'll take you with me and I'll dump them out and see what's going on there. I don't know. It's really late. I forgot about that bucket of potatoes. Okay, I have the forgotten bucket of potatoes. I don't know. This is really, really late. I forgot to harvest these. There's probably nothing here. We'll see. I don't even know what kind of potatoes these are supposed to be. Fingerlings. And there's quite a few, actually. Fingerling potatoes. Do you want these, Mr. Hubby? Wait, would you mind grabbing me a little bucket so I can collect these? Because I don't know where my basket is. It was in the house.
What kind of bucket?
Just get me a... Yeah, that's fine. And then fine. I don't know how we're going to rinse these. We don't have any water. They're still fine, guys. A little on, maybe on the small side, but... Oh, these ones are good. So here we are. We've come to my last bed. And this is my L-shaped bed, bed number 7. What I have in here is rosemary, fantastic. Alyssum, fantastic. butternut squash, the baby ones. I think they're called butterscotch butternut squash. They're the small ones. Unbelievably did great, much better than last year, when I didn't get any, and we ate them all. They were so delicious. The monster of the bed, this volunteer ground cherry. When I pull this out of the ground, I'll show you. There's probably hundreds of ground cherries on the ground that I have to try to pick up them all. Also in the back of this bed, I had my tomatoes, which did great this year. I had basil in this bed. Cayenne long peppers did decent, not as good as last year, but decent. The one thing that did not thrive in this bed, I had my bell peppers in here. I didn't get any. I got maybe a couple that were like this big, but nothing. And last year they did great. Go figure. I do have a amaranth in here that I'm gonna pull. So anyway, so let me get this bed cleaned up. We're almost done and we're beating the rain, so hang in there. Now that I've ripped out the beast of the ground cherry, look at all the ground cherries. Every single one of those could make a ground cherry plant. I'm never gonna get them all. I'm just gonna have to be diligent, just like the spoon tomatoes, of plucking them when they grow next year. I'm gonna get as many as I can. Okay guys, here's the entrance to my bed. I didn't get rid of that yet, but everything's done. You can still see there's a bunch of ground cherries in here. I left the calendula all cleaned up. And in a few weeks, I'll come back and I will put some mulch. I left the carrots in a little longer. So it looks pretty good. So I got all the garden beds done. Now all I have to do in about 3 weeks' time is cover them with some leaf mulch and they'll be all set for the rest of the winter. Thank you so much for everybody that's been watching my videos and supporting my channel. It's been really fun and it's been a learning experience for me. And I really, truly appreciate your support. That being said, if you like the video, you can give me a thumbs up or subscribe, leave a comment. I'm always open to chat with some of my friends here on YouTube. And up next, I'll probably be taking care of my hydrangeas out front. With the remodel and the construction we haven't done in the front, I think I'm just going to go ahead and deadhead all my panicle hydrangeas just so I can bring them down a little bit, so when they start doing the outside of the house, they don't get like really destroyed by the construction. So that will be coming up. I'm planning on repotting all my indoor plants, and guys, seed starting season is only a few months away. So again, thank you for watching, and until next time, get out there and grow. Bye-bye.